Hi everyone, it's Michelle Markey with Medina Domestic Art Studio with this month's video on how to color the peacock. I will also probably be adding an addendum to this video, which is how to use a heat press in setting your rhinestones, but we'll get to that after we finish coloring. So today the peacock, he is done primarily with Inktense pencils as well as Jelly Roll pens. And I also want to start out real quick talking about the paint brushes that you're going to need to use for this particular project. The peacock probably has the finest amount of detail of any of the Animals Gone Zen blocks, and you will need what's considered to be a round or a very fine tipped brush. These are all examples of round tipped brushes, and they're small. Usually they're anywhere from a size 1 to a size 3. And as you can see, this one, I actually used this in class. Let me see if I can get it focused again. This is going to be the one that I primarily use. Let me get it focused. Very small tipped, easy to get into the little crooks and crannies that are in the neck of the peacock in particular. But any one of these will work. As long as you have a very fine tip in which to be able to get into the areas where the stitching is, because that's very important with the peacock. You're going to want to color this very intensely, at least on the neck. So let's get started. So in your kit, or if you have gotten a copy of the instructions, you will see that we are using the colors of Inktense of Lagoon, Green Marine, Hooker's Green, Sea Blue, and of course Peacock Blue, as well as Sun Yellow. And your Sun Yellow you might want to pull from your previous Cockatoo kit if you have that. So I'm going to start out with Sea Blue, and very, very faintly. I'm not going to do it heavy, and I like to go ahead and color all those in first. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take my Lagoon. This is a really pretty purpley blue color. And I'm going to color fairly heavy. Don't worry about yet getting all the way up into the stitch line. You'll come back after you've gotten your project wet with fabric medium. And you're going to color the entire head. Or at least the head feathers of the head with Peacock Blue. Going on, I'm going to take the Lagoon and I'm going to start coloring his beak. And notice I don't put a lot of effort, and this actually kind of goes around the eyeball. Again, I'm just going to color this in. And then the eyeball itself, you use Hooker's Green. And I color it at kind of a medium level, not too hard, not too soft, just enough so that you can definitely see that it is green. And then last but not least, the small area behind there is done with Peacock Blue. Gorgeous blue, of course, very appropriate for our peacock. And I'm going to color that fairly deep. Okay. Now you can keep on going down the neck, and here's what I want everyone to do. We worked very hard on this in class. You're going to really bear down hard in these little areas. And in order to do this, you're going to want to have a really sharp pencil. And that's actually considered, excuse me, let me pull this over. That is considered dull. So I'm going to go over here to my handy dandy electric sharpener. And now I have a very, very, very sharp tip. Now try not to press too hard and break your tip. And then that way this will allow you to get inside those little tiny crooks and crannies. If you break your tip, resist the temptation to wipe it away with your hand, blow it, because 99 times out of 100, that tip is gonna break, and it's gonna break out here in the area outside, and you're going to get a blue streak. Okay, so that's how intense that your peacock should be colored. And now I'm going to pause the video briefly while I get my fabric medium and show you what to do next. Hang tight. Okay, I'm back, and you'll be able to see that I'm using pearlescent. Please note it says shake well. There's a reason for that. When you use pearlescent fabric medium, a lot of the pearlescent will fall to the bottom, and you need to really shake it good to make sure that you get all that pearlescent mixed up into the fabric medium. So I'm just gonna pour just a tiny bit, you know, about the size of a dime in the bottom. I'm going to grab my little round brush, although I know you can tell it's got a lot of blue on it. And, you know, I just start up here with the head feathers. Now, if you get it into the little circles, that's fine. Those are all gonna be covered up with bling. Unless you do not have a bling kit, in which case I'm going to suggest that you either color it with the same sea blue, or you can come in and color it with the hooker green, given that it is already stitched out in green. And oh, by the way, you may have noticed the peacock is the only one of the Animals Gone Zen that is actually colored or stitched out in colored thread. And the reason I did that was it just truly looks better. When I stitched it out in all black and then colored it in with all these beautiful blues, there was just something not right about it. So I decided to go ahead and stitch these out with the various different colors that you see, and I think it really makes for a much prettier peacock. And so there's the sea blue, and now I'm gonna come in and start coloring. And you know, because these colors are so close, I don't really bother to wash out my brush. It's just not that, it's not gonna make that big a difference. But if you'll notice, I'm really getting in here into the thread. Let me zoom in even more so that you can truly see this. That's as close as I can zoom in. But I really work that pointed tip all along the stitch line to get that completely colored. Now let's just say, for instance, that you're still not happy with it. Take your lagoon pin, again, one that's very pointy, and run it along the wet area to deepen that color and make sure that the head feathers are really nice and dark, okay? And then take your brush and go back over it. Really, really good. Okay, now let's move on to the neck. I mean, you're gonna continue doing the same thing with the head, but I wanna move on to the neck because I think this is the part that I really wanted to stress in class. You're gonna take your fabric medium and you're gonna go over not only the inside part of the circle, but you're actually gonna go over all of the stitching. Ultimately, it just doesn't matter with this because you're gonna end up covering the peacock with bling on its neck. And I think that the bling looks best when there's an intense amount of color sitting behind the bling. It actually kind of brings out the color on the bling. Really makes it very, very pretty. And of course, the bling, the color that's being used is cobalt, which is along the same lines as this kind of purpley blue. Really, really looks good. Okay, so as you see here, now there's still a couple of white spots, just like I did with a lagoon pin. I'm gonna come in here and color up these little areas that are still white. I want this neck as purple blue as I can get it, because we all have seen how intensely colored the neck of a peacock is. So you'll wanna really color that in and then come back and go over it with your brush to smooth the color out. Okay, Now you will continue doing that down the rest of the neck until you reach here. And I'm going to pause and I'm going to go on to the middle section of the feathers. Okay, we're resuming our video. A couple of things that came up while in class. There's some of the instructions that may be a little confusing, and I want to clarify them here in this video. So because people were like, well, it sounds like you're contradicting yourself, particularly when it comes to when you use gel pens and when you don't. Now, when you're going to just lay down gel pen without there being necessarily any pencil underneath or any other color of fabric marker or what else, you want to go ahead and color in, for instance, all these little band areas right here. And I did get a bit of blue on there. I'm going to show you how to take care of that here in a minute. These little bands all are supposed to be covered with this number 738. And let's see if I can show you where this number is. This is just not focusing. It's hard to tell. I'm going to see if I can get it down to right about there. There's a number right here up at the top. The very last three numbers are 738. This pin is called Marine, and that is what's going to go on these bands along this middle section of feathers. And the reason you want to put those down first, assuming that you're not putting anything underneath it, is that if you were to put down, say, the Inktense pencil and then cover it with fabric medium, but accidentally get fabric medium in those bands where the gel pen is supposed to go, it will automatically cause the ink from the gel pen to look sloppy or splotchy when you go to color over it. It actually changes the texture of the fabric, and hence when you put the fabric medium down, it just leaves a lighter area simply because the fabric can't absorb the ink as well since there's fabric medium down already. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come in and color with your gel pen first. All of these areas on the Peacock that have these bands, and you're going to want to color it in this number 738 gel pen, also known as Marine. And of course, work your pen all along the edges of the thread. Oh, don't you love that? Look at all that sparkle. I believe the instructions say to lay down Peacock first and then come over it, but we all decided in class it was better just to go straight to the gel pen. You can do it either way, but I will discuss how to go about laying gel pen down on top when we get further down on the Peacock feathers. So I'm just going to come in here and color these, and rather than you sit here and watch me, because it's boring, you learn once, it's real easy afterwards, I'm going to pause the video, color these, and then come back to show you how to do the rest of the wings. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I have finished coloring with a gel pen around those bands throughout the entire middle section of the tail feathers, well, body feathers, I guess I should say. I did deliberately make a couple of mistakes, and I want to show you ways to correct them. I may have mentioned this in other videos, but I think it's always worth repeating so that everybody can get comfortable with how to correct mistakes. Given that these are done with gel pens, unlike the pencils, I don't know yet whether the central pawl or the color catchers will work. So here's my boo-boo pin fix, and this is a jelly roll. It happens to be another number 5, and I'm just going to color over the first little boo-boo that I made, assuming that it works. And this has been a problem lately with these jelly roll pins. There we go.
sometimes the ink is a little tough to get going, but as you can see, it's definitely covering up. I also made a mistake right here along the edge, so I'm going to color along that as well, slowly but surely. And what I tell people is you may have to, particularly when it's a white on a very dark color like this, you may have to go over it a couple of times, let it dry in between times, because otherwise you'll just keep smearing it. Now another thing, and to those of you who get the full kit, coloring kit, I'm going to be sending this out as well. It's a Presto correcting pen, and boy do I like these for particularly larger areas when the mistake is really big. The tip is very fine tip, you can probably see that, and what I'm going to do is I just kind of push down on it and it releases white ink. You know, basically this is just like white out, but it's in a very fine tip, and as you can see, after it dries, you won't be able to see the white at all. It goes clear. Now, I did make mistakes actually in part of the wing where it's going to be colored, and I did that deliberately to show you that when you do that, actually, I don't try to correct it. I let it become a part of the coloring, and that will fade. You won't really see it once we start putting the color down. And so don't worry about, you know, in that section, because that is going to ultimately be hid by the various colors. Okay, I'm gonna pause this real quick. I realize I did not grab my purple Jelly Roll pen, and that's the next color we need to use, so hang tight. Okay, we're back. Now you're gonna come in and you're gonna color in here with the purple Jelly Roll pen. Okay, the next area that I wanna color are these swirls with my purple Jelly Roll pen. Now, I will tell you that in class, because ultimately, I'm going to slide this down so you can see, these swirls down here are going to be colored with your sun yellow pencil. So a couple of ladies in class felt like it was better to use the sun yellow in there rather than the purple Jelly Roll. But again, let me point out that not everybody is going to put bling in there, and there is bling that is added, some really large crystals. And so once again, I felt like the purple bling was bling pen was the better way to go. Oh, and one other thing, and this was brought out to me by actually several ladies who are not in the class but who have the kit. Make sure as you're working that you put a piece of paper towel down to protect your work. Okay, so now we have colored that. There's one other area. Let me just look at this real quick. Yes, I did color inside this teardrop, not the itty bitty one, that's where a bling is gonna go, but the next one out, and I'll just color that while we're on the video so that you can see. And it doesn't hurt for you to go in and color the little area where the bling is going to go. Again, if you have coloring behind where bling goes, sometimes it actually makes the color stand out quite well. Okay, the area that's outside, these little triangular areas, you're gonna use your Peacock blue. Again, make sure your tip is very sharp because these are tiny little areas that you're trying to get into. Just come in and color. Again, you notice I'm never very neat when I color. I just lay the color down because I'm gonna let that fabric medium do the trick for me. And then I'm gonna take my green aquamarine and I'm gonna come in here to this area right here and color it. Oops, now notice I broke my tip. It's right there. What am I gonna do? Blow it away, because you do not want to rub that tip in an area where you don't want that particular color. So actually I was kind of glad that happened. It's these professional tips that y'all need to learn how to blow your stuff away. Okay, so I'm gonna come in with my fabric medium again. I like to start on the inside, work my way out. Notice, by the way, I'm getting it on the bling. No biggie, no biggie, because once you've laid that down and once it dries, it'll kind of be sparkly again. Don't worry if you lose a little bit of sparkle while it's wet. Come out to the next area, Color that. I'm working fairly fast. And then you come down in these little triangular areas and you're going to lay your color down there. Again, work that tiny tip into the stitch area. Okay. And I'm getting the point across. I'm not going to finish that because I do want to move on to the other areas. Okay.
Well, you get the point. So work it as easy as possible. Now, the next areas that we're going to work are these series of tail feathers as they work their way down. And the very first thing you're going to do is start with your light lagoon. And when I say light, I mean very light. You're probably going to be having a hard time to even see the color of this pencil as I put it down. So very light, very light. And you can work around those little dots. In fact, if you get a little color in them, that's okay too. So very, very light. The next color is sea blue. On the next series, again, very light. And then last but not least, green aquamarine on the biggest tail feathers down here. I try to be light. Try also when you're coloring not to make too many streaks. I know it's hard when you're coloring light, but those streaks sometimes are a little difficult to work out with a brush. You have to do a little bit more scrubbing with them. Okay, I'll do this last one. Now, on the last feathers, you're going to want to do just a tiny bit of maybe peacock blue just to darken those last feathers up just slightly. I even put it on the second layer. It's very light, just a little bit of contrast. This is called overcoloring with two different colors, and you'll be able to see when I'm done what it looks like. Okay, now you're going to take your fabric medium brush. Again, start with the light. Now you see it actually kind of bounces. You know, it's hard for me to explain to people how easy it is to get color from these Inktense pencils. And you'll see I'm just scrubbing, but look how it really pops that color out. And again, I'm going over the area with Jelly Roll pen. That's okay. Now, I think that's a little too light, so that was let's see, the light lagoon. So I'm going to come in here in some of these areas and maybe put a little bit more lagoon down there. Not much. I don't want to, I like the contrast here, so just a little bit down, not a lot, and then come back in and deepen that color. And you see how you get your nice shade. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Just a nice shaded area as I move towards the darker wings. So let's go on now. And again, I don't care about my brush having the same color. I'm gonna come down here now to the sea blue. Same thing. I'm just slapping the fabric medium on. By the way, you'll notice now you can see a little bit of that peacock blue in there. It's the same kind of thing again. I think with this, I will take the sea blue, deepen it back in through here. Get some of that color down. And so we're after some shading here and some over color. Don't want to deepen it too much. I really like having some contrast because the rest of this is so dark. And if you start seeing that you're not blending, dip your brush into the fabric medium and start working it. So again, if you get into the dots, that's okay too. But very light, just mix that color in. It deepened because I've got the peacock down there as well, and that's precisely what I'm after. Okay, here again, as you move from one end back,
It's kind of like a shadow effect. Okay, last but not least, we have our green aquamarine. Really work the brush to get rid of the streak marks. And I'm going to need some more fabric medium. I'm going to pour my fabric medium in here. Ah, wow, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. That blend of the two colors as we get back towards the back. Again, over the sparkled area, that's okay. Now I'm going to come back in with my green aquamarine pencil, particularly here, back in this first wing. Deepen that up a bit. Bring more of that color into those little dots. Fabric medium, particularly these areas, and scrub pretty intensely. Work that tip of the brush up into that white area. Get a little up into the top. So that are the tail feathers. I'm going to pause this briefly, shift this over so that we can work these other areas over here. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're going to do these 3 rows right up here. And I think my instructions are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to get started on this so you can see the difference between light lagoon, dark lagoon, and the variation. So again, very light, and then a very dark. Okay, that's rows number 1 and 2. Make sure you really work that color into the thread for the dark. Maybe a tiny bit more light up there so you can see it. Row 3. And the next one is peacock blue. If it just has no light or dark, just kind of use a medium coloring of it. Then the next one says light sea blue, so very light. And then the next row says green aquamarine. And again, since it doesn't say dark or light, you're going to do that just kind of medium. The idea here is to get a decent contrast. And hopefully, by the way, these colored pictures that I'm breaking down into sections are helpful. And then the next row is very light aquamarine. Very little. And then the last 2 rows is light hooker's green. Okay, very quick. Don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Dip your brush in the fabric medium and just start working your way down. And you can see just by doing it this way, now the dark areas work the brush, the tip into the crevice of the stitch area, so you can get color into it all. Keep coming down in that light sea blue area. And this is very easy. I mean, once you kind of master the art of scrubbing with your brush, you immediately can see that you get that layered effect of the color without having a bunch of different colored pens, just varying the intensity of how strong or light you hold your pencil. Nice variation of color. Okay, the very next 3 feathers, again, all you're going to do is you're going to lightly color this outside area with hooker's green, or I guess I should say interior feather. And then the outside area you're going to want to do really dark hooker's green. And since I've got the hooker's green pencil in my hand, if we go to this next row, now the next row is supposed to have yellow in the center. Now you're gonna look at my picture and it looks like orange. I did not care for that copper color that I put in there. I mean, you can use the copper color because you have it from the turtle, but I really didn't like it after it was all said and done. So I'm gonna come in with my yellow pencil right here, and I'm gonna color in with yellow because I actually think a lot of the class did it and it looks a heck of a lot better than that copper. So then, and then I'm gonna come down here at the bottom, and this is going to be Hooker's Green, very dark. Okay. Again, pretend that I've done all the rest of these across. Okay, now I'm gonna, again, go with the fabric medium, particularly up here. Nice light color with the Hooker's Green. And before you do the yellow, wash your brush off and then dip it into the fabric medium again and just kind of lightly go over each one of the fabric, the yellow teardrops to get that done. Okay, I'm going to pause. I'm going to move down to the tail feathers. I'm going to show you just one tail feather because once you do one, all of them are done exactly the same. Okay, here's a new little trick, new technique. Take your bottle of fabric medium, shake it up really good, and I want you to put, again, what I consider to be about a dime's worth in one of the pans. Then I want you to take your Hooker's Green pencil and get it as sharp as you can and break off a good portion of the tip. And I'm gonna put that in there real quick so you can see. So just a couple of small pieces, nothing big. Now I'm also gonna come over and sharpen my pencil because I'm gonna need it again. Okay, now you're going to start stirring with your brush. And this is gonna take a minute or two. You can already probably tell that the fabric medium is starting to turn green. We are creating, you can look at it two ways, tinted fabric medium or paint. Basically, most of the paints that are considered to be fabric friendly, they're either acrylic, which I don't care for because it has kind of a stiff feel, or it's made with fabric medium that's colored very intensely, just like what we're doing here. And that's probably a decent color. You want it kind of a very light Hooker's Green. If you think you're getting too dark, just splash some more fabric medium in there. The longer those tips stay in there, probably the greener it'll get. So you want to keep it just about that color. And the very first thing you're going to do with this excess is this whole area that is stitched in green. You're just going to start going over the whole stitched area, stitching it all with this green tinted fabric medium. Now I'm going to dip and come down into this large section that's outside of the black line in between the green and the black. And I'm going to lay down fabric medium here as well. Okay. And get it good and coated. The entire area needs to be green. This little area right here, again, between, you'll notice even if you get it on the black, this is so translucent, it really doesn't do anything to color the black. Okay, once you've got that bigger, thicker part, you're gonna take your Hooker's pencil and you're gonna go over it while the fabric medium is still wet. You want a strong contrast between the lighter area where the green stitching is and what I call the outside eye of the feather. That looks great. Now I probably did this a little backwards. I'm going to explain why when I finish here. But I wanted to get you into creating your tinted fabric medium. And once you've done that, you know, if you feel like it's a bit splotchy, come back in. You can either continue to use some of the tinted fabric medium and, you know, spread the color, that pencil color around. And now you have a very vivid green relative to the light green. So all of this stitching area that you see on here, you're going to coat that and then you're going to use the pencil over the wider area. Okay, so let's talk about the center. Very easy. The center swirl is going to be yellow. Slam dunk, color it yellow. Now, this next area, I did not color it in my Peacock because I ended up completely covering it with bling. However, because again, some of you are not putting bling down, I suggest either using your sea blue or your green aquamarine pencil. I'm going to go with green aquamarine as I like that color. I think it looks good next to these colors that we have down here. So I'm just going to color it lightly. And then last but not least, you're going to use, let me make sure I say the right one. I believe it's Peacock. Yes, Peacock blue in that last area. You're going to color all of this Peacock blue. And do it medium. Definitely you want to see that this is, you know, you've seen peacock feathers. Everybody sees that vivid blue eye. So you want to make sure you do the same with your peacock feather. Get it all along the stitch line. So in this, I'm coloring a little bit nicely than normal. Then go ahead and start with the yellow. Also, what will happen after a while, if you have any piece in there, it will continue to get darker, so you'll need to add fabric medium. So just a heads up on that. So you can see just coloring in the feather, and all the feathers will be done the same way. Now, there is one final step, and that is when this blue completely dries, you will take, if you want, you don't have to, but because everybody seems to like bling, then you'll want to go ahead over all the blue area with your number 738 pen. And if you really want to make this pop and look really, really different, not only will you color it with this pen, but you will also color it with the purple, so that all those peacock feathers give you an iridescent purpley blue look and bling. However, please note, you must let the fabric medium dry first. And this is what I spoke about earlier when I say the confusion on some of my instructions. When I did it before, when we were up here in these feathers right here, I laid the jelly roll pen down first because I didn't want it to go over splotchy, maybe a spill of some of the fabric medium to that area. However, when you come down here, once the fabric medium is dry, then you can coat anything that has already been colored with pencil and fabric medium with a jelly roll pen. And the color beneath it will come through, and it just adds depth and dimension to the jelly roll pens. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the peacock.